So far, we have seen how to map both getters and mutations to computer properties and methods, respectively. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it's possible to map actions to methods by using a map actions helper. It works exactly as the map mutations helper. Perhaps you remember that I mentioned how it's possible to pass a payload to methods generated by the map mutations helper. We didn't see an example of that earlier because we're going to get to that in this lecture. Before getting to that though, let's replace the add product to cart method with the map actions helper, similar to what we have done a couple of times before. Since we added a success handler to the promise returned by the action in the previous lecture, I will do it within the view product component, because with the map actions helper we are unable to add additional code to the method. Alright, so within the view product component, let's first import the map actions helper from VueJs and map actions. And let's then remove this method right here for adding the product to the cart, because now I want to use the map actions helper. I'll just do this at the top of the methods object and use the spread ES6 operator once again, map actions, and pass in an array. And here I'll use the constants as before. So this is no different than what we have seen before with the other helpers, except the name of the helper, of course. It's still possible to change the name of the method by passing an object to the helper instead of an array, but we don't need that right now. Since the method we had before took the product and quantity as arguments and used those for passing a payload, we need to still support that. What we can do is to pass an object as the first argument to the method. This object will then automatically be passed to the action as a payload. Since we're using the method within the template, that's where we need to pass the object. So let's scroll up to the template and modify the expression within the click handler for adding the product to the cart by adding an argument within parentheses. And here I can add an inline object. So here I will add a product key and set it to the product on the component instance, and also add a quantity key and set that to 1. With that, everything should work exactly as before, only now we haven't implemented the method explicitly. So let's test it out. View a product and add it to the cart. And that still works after our delay that we added in the previous lecture. Great, the code still works. As with the other helpers, the map actions helper is useful for reducing the amount of boilerplate code for cases where you only need the method to dispatch an action. The way it works is that a method is added that automatically dispatches the action with the name that we specify. On a final note, I would recommend that you always use actions for committing mutations instead of invoking mutations directly, even if you don't need to add asynchronous code actually. The reason is that it makes it easy to refactor your code in the future, because all of your components will already be using an action. This means that you won't have to refactor all of the components to use a new action instead of a mutation. Besides, an added benefit would be that you are then consistent throughout your code, instead of mixing mutations and actions all over the place. As always, these two benefits become more apparent for larger applications, so it may not be necessary in the beginning or for small applications.